The sound of metal shutters rolled through the air like thunder. The massive doors of the Predator Legion training arena slid open, revealing a circular battleground lined with glowing walls and rows of towering alien spectators. The air shimmered with heat from the overhead lights. Every seat was filled with cadets, instructors, and veteran soldiers. Thousands of alien eyes focused on the center platform. They had come to witness a human's failure. In the middle of the dusty floor stood Lieutenant Marahale, alone. Her breathing was steady, but her heart thumped like a drum in her chest. She adjusted the dark combat uniform hanging loosely on her frame, clutching the simple metal baton in her hand. It wasn't much to look at, a training baton, designed to stun, not harm. Its smooth silver shaft flickered weakly with blue arcs of energy. The weapon weighed almost nothing in her grip. It felt like a toy. Mara knew that was the point. Around her, the 12 Predator cadets stood in a wide circle. They towered nearly twice her height, their scaled armor gleaming under the harsh lights. Their muscles rippled like coiled wire beneath the skin, and their sharp mandibles clicked faintly with amusement. These were the best recruits of the Legion, already veterans of countless sparring matches. And today, they had been told to fight her. The audience murmured with excitement. Some jeered. Others hissed their laughter in a sound like rusted knives scraping together. At the edge of the arena, on a raised platform, Commander Jirak leaned lazily against the rail. His armor was jet black, trimmed with bone-white lines. One of his aides, a smaller creature with a calculating expression, turned to him. Permission to begin the demonstration, Commander? Jirak nodded slowly. Begin. Let the human show us what her species calls a warrior. The clicking of mandibles spread like a wave across the watchers. Some cadets pounded their chests in rhythm, chanting in their thunderous alien language. Mara stood still. Even in her silence, the noise of the arena roared around her. Cheers, jeers, metallic echoes bouncing off the walls. The air smelled of burnt ozone and machine oil. She could feel the vibration under her boots from the anti-grav generators stabilizing the training floor. Every detail pressed into her mind like a photograph. Then, the announcer's voice boomed from invisible speakers. Combat Trial Number 42, initiated under Commander Jirak's supervision. Human candidate, Lieutenant Marahale. Weapon, non-lethal baton unit, Model 37. Opponents, 12 Predator cadets, equipped with standard training blades. Objective, demonstrate combat endurance. The crowd roared again. The announcer didn't need to say what everyone was thinking. The objective wasn't endurance. It was humiliation. Mara raised her eyes toward the stands. She could see faces. Rows and rows of alien cadets sneering, whispering, recording. 1,000 recording lenses glinted back at her like cold stars. Her body ached already. The past weeks had been brutal. 4 sparring sessions, sleepless nights in alien-level gravity, and endless mockery. To the Predators, she was entertainment, a living test subject. She tightened her grip on the baton. The hum grew louder. The 12 cadets spread out, forming a wide ring around her. They were armed with curved training blades, each one humming with controlled plasma edges. The blunted ends could still cut through thick hides, but not kill. At least, that's what the rules said. Mara exhaled slowly. She knew they wouldn't follow the rules. They never did. Her helmet comm crackled. A deep alien voice filled her ear. "Do you require a translator, human?" Mara didn't respond. She stared straight ahead. The announcer continued, his tone ceremonial and cruel. "Begin counting. Combat starts when the gong sounds." A massive countdown appeared in midair, glowing numbers flickering down from 5. 5. Her mind went quiet. 4. She rolled her shoulders, loosening her arms. 3. The cadets shifted their weight, claws scraping sand. 2. Every muscle in her body coiled. 1. She whispered, almost under her breath. "You wanted a lesson? Fine." The gong struck. It was a deep, resonant sound that made the floor tremble. The first 2 cadets lunged forward instantly, confident, their bodies moving faster than human reflexes should be able to track. Sand flew. Blades glinted. Mara didn't move. For that single half-second, she stood like a statue amid the chaos. Then she turned sharply, stepping inside the swing of the nearest alien. Her baton snapped forward, a crack of blue light dancing along its edge. The weapon struck the alien center mass with a precise jab, 1 inch below the collar ridge. A pop, a flash. The cadet's body seized. Every muscle locked, his legs buckled, and he collapsed face first into the dust. The audience gasped, unable to process what they'd just seen. The first hit had dropped him instantly. The second attacker halted mid-stride, confused, too late to stop. His momentum carried him forward. Mara pivoted, twisted her hips, and the baton struck again. This time, it hit the underside of the warrior's arm where the plating thinned. Another jolt, another flash. 2 aliens down in seconds. Silence spread through the stands. Even Commander Jirak straightened slowly in his seat. Mara looked down at the fallen soldiers. Her chest rose and fell, calm and steady. Her skin prickled from the electric backlash running through the baton shaft. The remaining 10 cadets glared, uncertain now, not laughing, not sneering. One hissed in their native tongue, voice low and twitching with anger. Human trick. Cheap shock toy. Mara didn't answer. She shifted her stance, lowering the baton slightly. Her eyes brightened a reflection of the arena lights. Everything in her training, every muscle reflex drilled on Earth, every tactical simulation, spoke through her now. The announcer's voice was gone. The roar of the crowd had faded into a stunned, breathless silence. There were 10 predators left standing, waiting for her next move. Mara slowly exhaled. Small clouds of dust floated around her boots. "You wanted a show," she murmured softly, more to herself than anyone else. "Let's begin." The next instant, she moved, and the arena lights seemed to flare brighter, as if the fight itself had ignited something new. The silence in the arena didn't last long. It shattered when one of the cadets let out a furious roar, a deep animal sound that vibrated through the metal seats. The others echoed him, pounding their clawed fists against their chests until the noise became deafening. The challenge was accepted. Mara didn't flinch. She shifted her feet slightly, drawing small arcs in the dust, the way she had done 1,000 times in training. It was a comfort ritual, fine balance, fine rhythm. The ring of Predator cadets tightened. 12 had entered the arena, and now only 10 remained. That simple math humiliated them. The arena wasn't used to seeing their kind lose. The largest of them, a heavy-shouldered brute with dark green armor and streaks of red paint, stepped forward, fury in every movement. His voice carried across the space. "She cheats. The baton is altered." From the spectator platform, Commander Jirak raised an arm for silence. His voice, low and commanding, boomed through the comm system. "You fought her under the same rules. No excuses. Proceed." The crowd fell back into expectant quiet, broken only by the low hum of energy coils in the walls. The brute growled again, lowering into a crouch. "Proceed, small one," he hissed. "Let's test that human nerve." Mara's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. "Gladly," she whispered. He charged. His speed was unbelievable. His massive legs thundered across the floor, throwing up clouds of sand and dust. The spectators leaned forward. A strike from that mass could crush bone. But Mara didn't retreat. She didn't even raise the baton. She waited. At the last moment, she pivoted to the side. The brute roared past her in a blur, missing by inches. The smell of his armor, hot metal and ozone, flooded her nose. In that same heartbeat, she turned and slammed the baton's charged tip into the back of his shoulder. The electric crack burst like lightning. The giant froze mid-step. His body twisted spasm and fell face forward, sliding to stop only a few feet away. 3 down. The crowd reacted in a wave of shock. Even among the seasoned predators, a murmur spread. This wasn't a fluke. Something about this human wasn't adding up. Mara rolled her shoulders. Each strike burned energy, and the baton's charge would drain fast. But she had learned early in training, precision beats power. She didn't need full force, just perfect aim. 2 more cadets came next, faster and smarter than before. They moved together, attacking from both sides. Twin plasma blades hissed near her head. She ducked. The air sizzled where her skull had been an instant earlier. Her body moved like a reflex machine. One hit, one dodge, one strike of blue light, and the first attacker went down, clutching his chest, armor smoking. The second caught her arm, knocking the baton away for a heartbeat. It skidded across the sand. Gasps echoed. Finally, a moment of vulnerability. The cadet hissed, raising his weapon for a finishing blow. But Mara's other hand came up, fist closed. She struck the soft joint under his jaw. Pain shot through her knuckles, but the alien stumbled backward, dazed. She kicked his knee sideways and rolled across the floor to snatch up the baton again. When she stood, her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Sweat trickled down her neck. The alien was still struggling to stand. She jabbed the baton into his armor plate and triggered the surge. A blinding flash filled the air. 4 down. The spectators were no longer laughing. Up on the command platform, Jirac's aide turned to him, whispering urgently, "She's not using the weapon as designed. Look, her strikes are short-range, pulse-timed at 90 hertz. Jirac's eyes narrowed. Pattern attacks? The aide nodded. Human nerve resonance. She's modulating the stun burst through muscle motion, instinctively aligning them to each target's weak points. Jirac grunted. Then what she's doing shouldn't be possible. Mara didn't know what they were saying, but she felt it in her bones. She had practiced for weeks, recording enemies' movement cycles, learning their rhythms. Her eyes didn't just look. They predicted. Every gesture, every roar, every claw twitch, it all told her something. 5 cadets circled together now, forming a shifting arc. They moved faster, smarter, their blades casting flashing streaks across the arena. Mara's breath steadied. One fragment of a memory flashed in her mind, her old instructor's voice during basic training. If you can't outrun them, outthink them. Simulate faster than their rage. Dust swirled as one predator fainted left. Another came low, blade spinning. She stepped aside, spinning the baton like a staff. Electric light danced through the haze. One spark, one thud. Another cadet hit the floor convulsing. 6 down. The crowd erupted into confused noise, shouting, roaring disbelief. She could feel the charge running low. Her baton sputtered slightly, the blue glow dimming at the tip. No time to rest. The 7th cadet lunged straight at her chest. She dropped low, sliding on one knee, and swept the baton sideways across his legs. The contact point glowed white-hot. Electricity leapt through armor joints, grounding through the sand. He hit the floor with a thump. 7 down. Mara's breathing was harsh now. Her arms trembled slightly from the weapon's feedback. Every strike sent shocks up through her bones. 3 figures remained upright across the arena, their eyes glowing pale yellow with fury. They barked something in their language, a command, a plan. She couldn't understand the words, but she recognized formation movement. They were regrouping. She moved toward them, slowly. Her boots crunched softly in the silence. The aliens were larger, stronger, and now, angry enough to be careful, they spread wide, weapons ready, pacing around her like wolves. Mara swung the baton once, letting its crackle fill the quiet air. The sound made them hesitate. All around the arena, cadets and officers watched, spellbound. They had trained to fight with power, not precision. They relied on their armor and strength. And here was a human breaking every expectation, beating them with their own arrogance. Mara smiled, small but sharp. "You study muscle," she said under her breath. "We study mistakes." She twirled the baton once, electricity sparking like firelight across her arm. 3 predators stepped forward as one. The ground shook. Mara raised the baton and waited. Again, timing was everything. Just before they reached her, she bent her knees, twisted, and sprang sideways into the dust. The first cadet swung wide, his blade cutting through air. She caught him on the return with a strike to the ribs. The second lunged into his falling partner. The third tried to stab down, but she was already inside his reach. A shock, a roar, a flash of light. Sand burst upward like a storm. And when it settled, 10 predators lay defeated, smoke curling from their armor. 2 remained. Mara turned toward them, wiping a smear of dust across her cheek. Her voice was calm, but her eyes blazed bright as the electrified baton in her hand. "Your turn," she said quietly. The sand smelled like ozone. Faint smoke still curled from the fallen cadets. The air hummed with dim blue sparks where the baton had kissed the ground. Mara stood motionless in the center of the chaos, her chest rising and falling in deep, slow breaths. The last two predators were circling her now, wary, quiet. Gone was the arrogance, the easy laughter from before. Their movements were measured, almost defensive. From a viewing platform, Commander Jirak leaned forward, elbows resting on the rail. His face was unreadable, but his claws tapped the steel edge in slow rhythm. "She fought like this before?" he asked without looking at his aide. The aide shook his head. "No record of this pattern, Commander." Human records show basic melee training, low-threat certification. Jirax gazed and moved from the arena. "Then what are we looking at?" The aide answered softly, "Adaptation." Mara could feel the pulse of the baton weakening. The charge meter flickered. 2 units left. That meant 2 full hits before it died. She flexed her arm. Her muscles ached, nerves twitching from the feedback. But she didn't care. Pain meant she was still alive. Her eyes followed the remaining cadets. They were smart, these two, clearly more experienced. They didn't rush. They analyzed her the way she analyzed them, watching her shoulders, her breathing, even the subtle vibration of the baton's light. The one on the left, a tall brute with red eyes, started circling clockwise. The second mirrored him, keeping equal distance. They were trying to confuse her sense of focus, divide her attention. Mara smiled to herself. "You think in packs," she murmured. "I think in patterns." Then, without warning, she shifted her stance. Feet sliding slightly in the dust, baton angled backward like a blade. The red-eyed alien twitched. He saw motion and reacted instantly, lunging forward to strike first. His blade came down with a roar of energy. But that was what she wanted. She sidestepped the strike with barely an inch to spare and slammed her elbow into his throat guard. Before he could respond, she turned her body weight, using the momentum of his own attack to roll behind him. The baton slid up under his arm. Click. One burst. Light and sound exploded together. The predator dropped to one knee, choking, paralyzed. The shock pulse spread up his nervous system, locking every muscle tight. The smell of burnt ozone filled the air. Mara didn't even look. She was already moving. The last one came from her right, fast and silent. His blade caught the edge of her uniform, slicing it open across the ribs. Pain seared her side. She gasped but didn't stop. The weapon returned, striking again, but she twisted low. The hiss of plasma passed an inch above her head. Her free hand grabbed a handful of sand and threw it straight into his face. He growled and swung wildly, blind for 2 seconds. 2 seconds, all she needed. She sprang forward, driving the last bit of the baton's charge directly into his chest plate. The globe burst white. Sparks flew. He convulsed, roaring so loud it drowned the gas of the crowd. Then, all at once, the noise stopped. The final cadet collapsed beside his fallen brother. The arena was filled with a faint crackle of dying energy, then nothing but heavy breathing. Mara straightened slowly. Her arms were trembling, not from fear but exhaustion. Across the dome, every predator in the stands was silent. The fight had taken less than a minute. On the observation deck, data screens flickered, replaying her movements in fragmented slow motion. Jiraxade spoke quietly, eyes sharp with disbelief. "She doesn't just fight fast. She fights ahead. Her movements predict the vector paths before they occur. Commander, look, she times her electric discharges exactly between muscle cycles." Jirak watched the replay without blinking. "You're saying she's anticipating their reaction intervals?" "Yes. She's watching them like maps, reading their body language milliseconds before movement." Jirak's expression darkened in thought. Pattern recognition on that scale isn't natural. The aide's voice dropped lower. Humans are specialists in chaos. They train their bodies to move under instinct, but their minds calculate unconsciously. No algorithm we have can replicate that kind of improvisation. Jirak looked down again at the small figure standing alone in the dust below, surrounded by 12 unconscious warriors twice her size. Impressive, he murmured. Terrifying, but impressive. Mara felt the weight of every stare pressing down on her. Her side burned where her uniform was torn, the wound shallow but stinging. She poked at the Baton's control dial. Empty. The little indicator light blinked red. No more charges left. It was just a silver stick now. But she knew the battle wasn't done. Jirak's voice echoed from the loudspeakers, smooth and cold. Human combatant, state your weapon condition. Mara looked up, eyes squinting against the bright lights. Out of power, she called back. The commander's tone sharpened. And yet you stand. Interesting. Consider your test complete. She hesitated. Unless you want more proof, she said plainly. Jirak let out a low, rumbling laugh that rippled around the dome. Bold. Very well. He gestured to his aide without breaking eye contact with her. Prepare the next phase. Mara tensed. The next phase? A steel hatch on the far wall slid open with a hiss. From it, four massive predator guards stepped into view. Their armor was darker and thicker than the cadets, their eyes burning like coals behind their helmets. They weren't trainees. They were soldiers. The crowd roared again, thrilled at the promise of destruction. Mara's heart hammered. The Baton dead. Her body aching. The floor slick with dust and sweat. But her mind stayed clear. There was only one rule left. Adapt, she whispered to herself. 12 wasn't enough for you. Fine, let's go bigger. Up above, Jirak folded his arms. We test her instincts, not her luck, he said. No more training restraints. Let her show us what humans truly are. His aide hesitated. Commander, if she dies. Then we learn the limit, Jirak interrupted. But if she lives, we reconsider everything we know about her race. In the arena, Mara raised her now dormant Baton and tightened her grip. The first of the real warriors pounded his chest and stepped forward. He was 3 times her size. His footsteps shook the floor. His claws gleamed like glass. The crowd fell silent again, holding its collective breath. Mara's eyes locked on the soldier. I beat your cadets with a dead stick, she whispered, just loud enough for her calm mic to catch. Let's see what I can do with nothing. Her body lowered into a ready stance, every nerve alive, her heartbeat steady as a drum. The next stage had begun, and humanity, again, was about to surprise the galaxy. The 4 predator guards entered the arena one after another, shadows swallowing the light around them. Their armor was marked with dark crimson scars, proof of real battle. No training suits now. These were seasoned killers. Mara felt the vibration in the floor as they walked. Each step slammed into her chest like a heartbeat outside her body. The crowd had gone wild again, chanting, shouting, stamping. For them, this wasn't a test anymore. It was a show. High above, Commander Jirak stood like a statue. His voice boomed from the speakers. Second trial. Full combat authorization. No restrictions. Mara swallowed dry air. The Baton in her hand was dead metal, smooth and cold. It glinted dully under the overhead lights. She twirled it once, out of habit, testing its balance. It still felt right in her grip. She moved her thumb along its side, counting dents and scratches. Every fight leaves a mark, she thought. Let's make sure this one leaves theirs. The guards spread out, forming a wide diamond around her. Their movement was perfect, precise, drilled through endless repetition. Each one held an energized blade long enough to cut a human in half with one swing. Mara's muscles ached, but her mind was sharp. She could sense it, the rhythm again. Every creature had one. The way they breathed, the moments between steps. Every living body was a pattern waiting to be solved. She whispered to herself, read the pattern, break the rhythm. The first guard tested her with a feint. A flash of blue light from his blade cut the air near her shoulder. She didn't move. She watched his shoulders, not his weapon. His second strike came from the other side. Quicker, predictable. She leaned past it, barely grazing the edge, and tapped the dead Baton against his arm. No electricity, only sound. Thunk. Still, it distracted him just long enough for her to drive her knee into his midsection. He gasped, staggered. She ducked low, swept his legs, and slammed the Baton's hilt into the side of his helmet. He fell with a crash, his helmet skidding across the sand. The crowd shouted in disbelief. 3 left. The second came from behind, silent but heavy. Instinct screamed a warning. Mara threw herself sideways as the blade cut through the space where she'd stood. She rolled, came up hard against one knee, and felt something warm trickle down her side. The cut from before had opened again. Blood soaked her uniform, but she stayed calm. Pain was data. It told her where she was still alive. The guard stomped toward her, blade raised. She let him think she was done. When he was close enough, she shoved the Baton straight into the sand and kicked upward, hitting him square in the chin. His head snapped back. Before he could recover, she yanked the Baton free and slammed it against his wrist joint. The armor there cracked with metallic snap. The blade dropped from his grip, buzzing as it hit the floor. She caught it before it fell completely, pivoted, and flipped the weapon backward into her own hand. The alien's wide eyes reflected the glowing edge of his own sword now aimed at his throat. "Now we're even," Mara said softly. A single, clean motion, and he fell. 2 left, up in the command box. Jirac's aide could barely speak. She stole his weapon in under 1 second. Jirac didn't answer. His chest rose slowly, his claws pressed together in silence. The small human below moved like a living algorithm, unpredictable yet perfect. Every step she took seemed chaotic, but to him, it carried invisible logic. Finally he whispered, "This is what adaptation looks like when instinct and learning fuse." The last 2 came together. One tall and armored thick, one slim and agile. The heavy one rushed straight in while the other darted sideways to flank. It was a simple but deadly tactic. One crushes, the other strikes from behind. Mara tilted her head slightly, watching dust whirl around their boots. Every heartbeat she counted in her mind like music. 1 step, pause. 1 step, strike. Just before the heavy one reached her, she threw the dead Baton at him. It spun in the air, flashing silver. Instinct made him raise his blade to deflect it. That single second of distraction was all she needed. She leaned forward and slid under his wide swing, grabbing the thrown Baton as it bounced off his armor. The agility of humans was something predators always underestimated. The weight, the flexibility, pure advantage. Her shoulder hit the sand. She rolled, came up behind him, and drove his own comrade's sword between the plates at his back. Sparks burst from the impact zone. He went rigid, roaring in pain as his systems overloaded. As he fell, the final guard slashed down from above. Mara used the fallen one's shoulder as a springboard, twisting in midair. For a split second she was upside down, suspended in blinding light, dust swirling around her. Then she dropped, bringing the sword across in a clean arc. The last guard's weapon clanged to the floor. His chest plate split open from a force. He staggered, then collapsed face first beside his comrades. And then, complete silence. Mara stood surrounded by motionless bodies. Her hair stuck to her face, sweat mixing with blood, uniform torn. The plasma sword hissed softly, small blue flames dancing along its edge. The arena's roar faded into stunned quiet. No one moved. Even Jirac remained still. Finally, Mara lowered the sword and threw it into the sand, point first. It stood upright, humming faintly. Every eye followed it until it stilled. Her voice was raspy but clear when she spoke. "You wanted to see what humans can do without power," she said. "Now you know." For a moment, no one answered. Then, slowly, the chant began, not laughter now, but something lower, heavier. Respect. Every predator in the stands pounded their chests once, the sound echoing like thunder. Jirac's aide leaned in close. "Commander," she just disarmed and neutralized 4 soldiers with an empty weapon and their own technology. Jirac nodded slowly. She transformed weakness into strategy. Every species should fear a mind that uses disadvantage as a weapon. Mara didn't stay to listen. Her knees trembled as adrenaline faded. She turned toward the exit hatch. Behind her, the soldiers stirred faintly but did not rise. She walked past them, every step leaving a print in the dust. At the top of the arena ramp, she paused and looked back once. The weapon still stood where she had left it, its faint blue glow dimming into silence. She smiled tiredly. Never give a human something you don't want used against you. Then she stepped into the darkness beyond the hatch as the crowd's thunder rolled on behind her. The corridor behind the arena was dim and silent. Cold lights traced lines along the steel walls, humming faintly with power. Each step Mara took echoed off metal in slow rhythm. Her arms hung heavy. Sweat turned to salt on her skin. She had won, but she didn't feel victorious. Not yet. Every instinct told her the test wasn't over. The Predators didn't end things cleanly. They liked grand finales. The intercom crackled. Commander Jirac's rough voice filled the hallway. Lieutenant Hale. She stopped walking. Her reflection shimmered in a glass panel along the wall. Hair wild, uniform ripped, skin bruised. She looked like a ghost more than a soldier. Jirac continued, calm and slow. You've exceeded every parameter we expected. 12 cadets. 4 guards. All disabled. You should feel proud. Mara frowned. The way he said she felt wrong. Sounds like there's a but coming, she muttered. Jirac's voice sharpened. But we do not base conclusions on control fights. True performance is measured under chaos. A metal gate slammed shut behind her. The lights in the corridor turned red. Ahead, another door opened, wide and blinding. Mara smiled weakly. Of course. Chaos. She stepped through. The next arena was smaller, circular, lit by flickering lamps. The floor was scarred and uneven, fragments of old training gear scattered like bones. Jirac stood above on a high balcony, watching. His clawed hands rested on the rail. This is final evaluation, he announced to the crowd overhead. No mock battle, no limits. Survival mode until the countdown reaches 0. How long? Mara called back. He paused. 60 seconds. She studied the space around her. No visible opponents. Yet, just the whirring of some heavy machine. Then she saw panels in the walls begin to shift. Mechanical claws unfolded. Sharp discs extended. The air changed. It smelled like heat and oil and ozone. Automated drones, she whispered. Imitation predators. There were 6 of them, sleek, fast, built for speed. They leaped from the racks, blades spinning, eyes glowing red. Mara closed her eyes once, exhaled deep, and whispered to herself, just 1 minute. The first drone darted in, edges flashing. She caught its rhythm almost instantly. Too fast, not flexible. She waited for it to lunge, then sidestepped and let its own weight carry it past. The blade hit the floor with a shower of sparks. She grabbed its wrist joint, twisted, and slammed its head into the ground. Circuits exploded. 1 down. The others attacked together now. Their movements were cleaner than the cadets, perfectly calculated. She ducked, rolled, and grabbed a fallen fragment of scrap metal. Not much, but sharp on one side. She spun it once to feel the balance. The drones adjusted their pace. Computers learning on the move. She smiled faintly. You learn fast, she said, but I learn faster. She slid low under one drone's sweep and buried the edge of the scrap into its power joint. Sparks burst. Using her foot, she kicked its twitching body into another. The 2 crashed together and went down in a tangle of metal limbs. Only 3 still standing. The audience roared again, some in disbelief, some in awe. Up above, Jirac watched silently. His aide whispered, Sir, if she survives this, it's more than a test. It's a message. Jirac didn't respond. His eyes stayed fixed on the human below. The countdown flashed past 30 seconds. A drone caught Mara's arm, slicing skin. She hissed in pain, but used the momentum to trap its limb and pull. Wires snapped, joints popped, and the machine collapsed, twitching. A quick step backward, a swipe of the scrap edge, and another fell. Now there were only 2, but her weapon broke in half. The thin metal snapped at the center. Mara tossed aside and lifted her fists instead. Her knuckles were bloody, her side bleeding freely. It didn't matter. She'd endured worse. The last drones encircled her, their artificial minds adapting every move. They synchronized attacks, one from front, one from behind. Her breath slowed. Her pupils narrowed. The floor felt steady beneath her feet. There was no noise in her head now, only timing. The front drone lunged. She ducked under it, letting it pass over her shoulder, and at the same time drove her elbow backward into the second's core plate. Then she spun, snatching the first by its damaged wrist, pulling into the path of the other's blade. The strike tore both apart in a shower of sparks. The explosion threw her back. Dust filled the room. She hit the ground hard, sliding across debris. The timer above flickered. 5 seconds left. Her ears rang. Her vision blurred at the edges. She forced herself to stand. Every muscle screamed, but she refused to stay down. When the final chime hit 0, she was upright, barely breathing, but alive. Jirac's voice broke the silence. Stop the program. The machines froze. The red light shifted back to white. The commander looked down at the battered figure in the center of the smoke. You have completed the impossible, he said softly. Mara tilted her head up at him, exhausted but unbroken. I just didn't like your rules, she said. The crowd began to clap their heavy hands against the metal rails. Not mockery this time, but respect tinged with awe. Even predators could recognize brilliance when they saw it. Jirac descended slowly from his platform, boots ringing against the steel steps. When he reached the arena floor, he stood face to face with her. She barely reached his chest, but somehow he felt smaller in that moment. He studied her in silence before nodding once. You should be dead, yet you walked through every kill zone as if the universe owed you space. Mara gave a tired half-smile. It doesn't. I take it anyway. Jirac's grin was faint but real. You're no cadet. You are a weapon that thinks. He turned toward the watching crowd. Let the Legion record this day. One human has proved that intelligence without fear is the deadliest force in war. The roar that followed shook the walls. Mara's knees almost buckled from exhaustion. Jirac stepped closer, lowering his voice. Your training here is done, Lieutenant Hale. The next time we meet, it will be as equals or enemies. She nodded slowly. Let's hope it's as equals. He gave a single approving bow of the head and walked away, leaving her alone in the haze. When the doors finally closed behind him, Mara looked down at her torn uniform and blood-stained hands. She laughed weakly, a sound somewhere between relief and disbelief. She whispered, 60 seconds of chaos. That's all it takes to change a galaxy's mind. Her reflection smiled back faintly from a piece of shattered metal at her feet. Then she turned and walked toward the exit lights. Behind her, the arena was silent except for the faint hum of crippled machines, silent witnesses to what one determined human could do. The next morning, the arena stood empty. The sand had been raked smooth again, hiding the burns and cracks from the fight. But the silence felt different now. The hum of the lights seemed quieter, almost respectful. High above, banners still fluttered after the night's storm of cheers. The entire Predator Academy was buzzing. Every corridor, every hall, every barrack whispered about the human who had taken down 12 cadets, 4 guards, and 6 combat drones. With almost nothing. 60 seconds, they murmured. She lasted 60 seconds against death itself. Her name had spread through the comm channels before dawn, Lieutenant Mara Hale. The unarmed one, asterisk. In the command office, Commander Jirac stood before a wide window overlooking the silent arena. A dozen reports hovered in holographic light beside him. He had read them all twice. They all said the same thing. Result: human subject number 01. Combat superiority confirmed. His aide stepped forward cautiously. We have received requests from 3 legions for exchange training with Earth forces. They want to study her methods. Jirac gave a deep rumble from his throat, not irritation, but thought. One woman shifts centuries of arrogance overnight. We underestimated them. The aide hesitated. Do you believe she represents her entire species? Jirac looked back at the arena again. No, he said. She represents what happens when her species is cornered. He folded his claws behind his back, remembering the way she had stood after the battle. Blood-stained yet unbroken. Humanity, he whispered, is a lesson written in defiance. Mara lay in the medical bay, staring at the ceiling panels that pulsed faint blue in rhythm with her heart monitor. Her side was neatly bandaged. The air smelled sterile, metallic, cold. Her body hurt everywhere, but her mind was clear. A nurse, thin, gray-skinned, with gentle movements, checked her vitals. You should rest, human hail, the nurse said. Your body has limits. Mara smiled faintly. I think I broke most of them already. The nurse's eyes blinked slowly. You inspired fear during the trials. Fear and curiosity, the nurse added softly. The commander requested to see you when strength returns. Mara closed her eyes. Tell him I'll be ready. Hours later, Jarak entered quietly. His armored steps were heavy on the smooth floor. Mara pushed herself up, wincing as the stitches pulled. He studied her for a long moment before speaking. You should heal. Instead, you sit upright, waiting for another fight. I don't sit, she said, voice dry. I move forward. Jarak gave a short, low laugh. Humans speak as if motion itself were oxygen. Sometimes it is, she replied. He handed her a small, polished case. Inside rested the same dead Baton, clean, repaired, but still the same. You left this behind. She took it slowly. Thought you'd frame it. Jarak shook his head. No trophies, only reminders. Keep it. She turned the weapon in her hands. Fair trade for bruises. He looked toward the observation window where a new sunrise bled across the alien skyline in bands of orange and silver. Your actions last night forced the War Council to rethink our alliance protocols. Humanity will no longer be evaluated as subordinate species. Mara blinked. You promoted us because I didn't die? Because you refused to, Jarak said. There's difference. He folded his arms. The Legion wants to recruit you as combat instructor. You would teach soldiers how to think as you do, to adapt, to improvise. She let the idea settle for a moment. Teaching predators how to fight like humans, she murmured. That's ironic. Perhaps balance is built from irony. Mara looked up, meeting his gaze. I'll teach them on one condition. Jarak raised a brow ridge. Condition? That every student remembers the real point. It's not strength that wins. It's the mind that refuses to quit. Jarak inclined his head slowly. Agreed. Weeks later, the Predator Legion held a ceremony not for victory, but for acknowledgement. Hundreds of cadets stood in formation around the same arena where she had fought. Massive banners of both species, human and predator, hung side by side. When Mara stepped onto the sand again, the same crowd that once laughed now struck their chests in salute. The echo rolled like thunder through every corridor. Jarak's deep voice carried over the arena speakers. This warrior entered our halls as an experiment. She leaves them as a teacher. Yesterday we witnessed power. Today we honor resilience. He turned toward her. Lieutenant Hale of Earth, on behalf of the Legion, you are named honorary tactician. The title meant more than rank. It meant acceptance. Mara nodded once, neither smiling nor crying. I didn't come here to be honored, she said quietly. I came to remind every fighter, no weapon matters more than willpower. Jarak smiled faintly, and that lesson will echo longer than any battle. That night, after the ceremony, Mara stood alone at the edge of the training grounds. The sky was wide and dark. Stars stretched like dust across infinity. Somewhere out there was Earth, small and distant, spinning quietly between wars and peace. She whispered to herself, We're worth remembering. A soft rustle behind her made her turn. Jarak stood there, cloak drawn tight. We will remember, he said, simply. She laughed softly. Funny, I used to think humans would always be the underdogs. You still are, he said with respectful amusement. But now the galaxy knows that underdogs bite. They shared a rare silence. A soldier and a commander from two worlds, understanding each other for what they truly were. Survivors. When dawn rose, Mara watched the sunlight break over the horizon, spilling across the arena floor. The sand looked golden now, not red. For the first time since arriving on this world, she allowed herself to rest. She placed a repaired baton in her belt, turned toward the transport dock, and walked away from the training grounds that had tried to kill her. Behind her, banners fluttered again, and a line from the Legion's new creed glowed on the display above the gates. Strength is taught, but will is born. Mara smiled. Close enough. Then she stepped into the transport bay, ready for whatever waited beyond the next horizon. Because humans never stop moving. And somewhere, deep inside every corner of the galaxy, beings would tell the same story about the woman who was given a non-lethal baton and used it to change the universe.